show called Pop, so we drop the knowledge on all the latest thoughts. From comics and movies, games and TV shows. Well, Angel Studios sent over Sweetwater. That's right. Sweetwater's going to drop over on Angel Studios on their app and on their streaming services. So you can go check this out. And here's Sweetwater. The story's pretty simple. Jackie Robinson for the NBA. There you go. Basketball's first black dude. Now, I know historically accurate, being technical. I know it's in the movie. It's in the movie who actually plays first, and it's not Sweetwater. They screw him, and how that plays out is part of the film, and I get all that. Now, with that said, this film really did a really good job of really trying to dive at least into so many different topics of Sweetwater's life. He was a phenomenal player. He was basically the center of the draw, if you will, the main attraction for the Harlem Globetrotters back in the day when owner and coach Abe Saperstein took them around. He was like setting up these gimmicky games. Sure, he was paying these white players to play them. They were going to lose, but at the end of the day, the Knicks executives, the people that was the running the NBA, were kind of torn and divided. Like, hey, listen, I want Sweetwater and other black players into the NBA. Most of them were saying no. Obviously, the diversity wasn't really well distributed across the country, so obviously audiences would be mixed. So the film opens with a very cool sequence where Sweetwater and the Globetrotters beat the NBA champs, the Lakers, the Milwaukee Lakers, with George Mikan. And there's a great scene where Sweetwater blocks his shot. And they're like, oh my gosh, has Mikan ever been blind? And of course, they win that game. They've become, quote, the best team in the world. And I think at the time, it's a really great topic of discussion, too, because George Mikan is, if you've seen pictures of George Mikan, this dude, it looks like he's a bowler rather than an NBA superstar. So it does show the discrepancy of the time. It's one of those things with time. I'm usually on the other scale. I'm usually where I'm always making the case for 80s and 90s superstars to hold their own against modern stars if they're allowed to have the same sort of training regimen. However, we go back too far, like to Mikan. I'm not sure that holds water because I'm not sure Mikan. I don't even know about Mikan enough to know he would be holding himself to the standard of these current players or even like the Jordan, Bird, Magic eras. And anyway, so they did a great job of just kind of showcase the talents, things like that. This is that Sweetwater versus George Mikan block shot. Here's the executives talking it through, and a great cast. Like, this is really, really the star of the movie is the other characters, which is kind of the biggest negative on Sweetwater. Everett Osborne is not a big name actor. He does a fine enough job bringing Sweetwater to life. However, Cary Ellis, Jeremy Piven, Kevin Pollak, even a little bit of Richard Dreyfuss has a couple moments, and Eric Roberts has a moment. Things like that are really better performances. They have more meat on the bone with their dialogue and their character. Jeremy Piven's character is probably one of the best of the whole movie because he is Joe Lapchick is sort of the character that is really calling for reform. He's the one who's like, there's a scene with his son because they're obviously being attacked socially. Someone's prank calling the phone. The son picks up. It's like, why do we use the N-word or N-word lovers? We don't use that word. It's disrespectful. So the life lessons to the audience happens from him to his son. It's fantastic. It's a great scene. And Joe Lapchick is the guy who's really, really dug in to make this happen. And then, of course, Cary Ellis plays the executive there in New York. And what he did is he brings the team in to play other college all-stars, which makes them fans of the Globetrotters, fans of Sweetwater. So when you see this sequence, when you're seeing tonight basketball, college all-stars versus Trotters, this is the contrived mechanism to get so many people in at Madison Square Garden that whenever Sweetwater actually makes it to the floor, he is the one they're all cheering for, right? He's not just some lowly guy who's being brought in. He's not just, Clifton or Nat or whatever. No, he's a superstar already. They already know who he is. So he's already got his fans and people are going nuts there in the arena. Yeah, it's him stepping out of the floor. And, it's a shame because he was kind of robbed of that moment, robbed of that magical moment of stepping on the floor because the night before another team played before the season. They played on the 31st versus the 1st or something. So the other player gets credit for being the first black player. It's just, the movie does a good job of highlighting all of that. Now, with all that said, movie's pretty dry, pretty bland. I mean, I was 20, 30, 40 minutes into it. I was like, oh, this is really slow. Once it kind of gets rolling, there's some really good stuff in there. They use Jim Caviezel plays a sports writer that gets in a cab. That's the opening scene and the ending scene. And it's telling Sweetwater's story because who is Sweetwater? Sweetwater ultimately lives out his life as a cab driver in Chicago. So it's a really cool story, and there's a lot of meat on the bone that could be told. They just bounced around. I think too much of the behind the scenes stuff couldn't find its place with what Sweetwater's life is. And then they kind of have this love life thing with the white girl that's a singer. She's like got a jazz voice and going to the bar, and it's all fine. But it doesn't coalesce enough and it doesn't hit anything really big. So I actually kind of feel similar with 42, the Jackie Robinson thing with Chadwick Boseman. It's all good and I'm so glad it got told, but it just never gets there. So this for me, I wouldn't mind rewatching this one. I think it's one of those things that could just be on. It's completely safe and fine to be on. But I wouldn't go out of my way to watch. So it's in that Midland, 2 out of 5, 2.5, maybe out of 5. But if you like sports movies, you want to know the story, it's not worth missing. Fair enough. But yeah, I kind of land at 2.5 stars out of 5. It's fine. I mean, I don't think it's something that you have to don't miss or you have to watch. But if you're a sports fan, kind of want to take it in, it's not the worst thing in the world. So that's my take on it. Good luck to Angel Studios. Hope it does well for them. Hope it does well for the folks that are involved. It was good to see Jeremy Piven and Kevin Pollak doing well in this movie. They're two people I think have really a lot of skills that kind of go underutilized. Carrie Ellis is always good. I don't know what to say about that. I thought Dreyfuss was pretty subpar for Dreyfuss. I thought this was actually kind of a weak performance for him. He felt very meh for me, but that's just me. Overall, I liked seeing the NBA history come to light, those stories being told. That's what I like seeing with some of these biopics, and this is one of those that does that. So that's my take on it. I am Pops.